Roster cuts are just part of the NFL. And unfortunately, sometimes there's some guys that you don't want to necessarily see go, but at the same time, you're kind of like, there's some shocks. Like there are some ones where you're kind of like, why are we cutting that guy? He provided a lot of value, but at the same time, there's also, it's a business. Like the NFL really is largely a business. And for the Las Vegas Raiders, I think there is cinco players that could find themselves, unfortunately, on the chopping block for the silver and black. And so I think we got to run into it here and just start out with, yes, I think Ameer Abdullah is number one here. So I understand that the running backs for the Raiders are pretty stacked. Zamir White ran for roughly 400 yards in the last 4 games of the regular season last year. Alexander Mattison, coming over from the Vikings, did not score a single rushing touchdown. That hurt. And then also, you got Ameer Abdullah, Dylan Laube as well. And if I'm being honest, I think that Dylan Laube poses a big threat to Ameer Abdullah. Like Ameer Abdullah is going to be in a spot where he has to come in and ball out because Dylan L is right on his tracks. I think he could be Dylan L. That is could be a guy that does get some run in the return game. And so if he does show some big playability and a little bit of catching out of the backfield ability and some of the run between the tackles ability that he showed in college, I think that Ameer Abdullah could unfortunately be the odd man out here. And again, it's the veteran here. So a lot of times the nod goes to the veteran, but I think that you don't draft a guy like Laube unless you really expect him to contribute on a lot of different areas. And I just do not see the Raiders keeping 4 running backs on the main roster. Now, I think they cut Abdullah, but they somehow magically keep him. He clears waivers, and they get him onto the practice squad. So there is that. Number 2, I think it's safety Chris Smith. So don't get me wrong. I have loved Chris Smith II ever since he came in out of Georgia. But overall, I'd be lying if I didn't say that his rookie season was a little bit of a disappointment. And I think that there is so much more meat left on the bone with him. But Trey Taylor is going to be a stud. And we'll talk a little bit more about Trey Taylor in a second here. But Chris Smith, he just hasn't been given the time of day. He's largely been on special teams. And when defensive snaps were up for grabs, he really hasn't been given a shot. Like Isaiah Palomalo has been given a lot more opportunity. I think Trey Taylor is going to get a lot more opportunity. And I think that Trayvon Moehrig really balled out last year, so he's really separating himself. So Chris Smith, I think, could be definitely an unfortunate cut here and might shock a little bit of people. Number 3, this one actually might not shock people. Defensive tackle Byron Young. I have yet to see anything he's done for the Raiders. I don't mean to be a jerk, but at the same time, it's like you're a former 3rd-round pick. You were supposed to be, at least a guy that would come in and grab some snap at defensive tackle. But they brought in Christian Wilkins. Also, Adam Butler had himself a very, very fine year last year. And as far as the defensive side of the football goes, John Jenkins is back. Tyree Wilson is actually getting some run on the interior. And Matthew Butler has a little bit more experience. And heck, I'd probably even take Marcon McCall or Nesta Jade Severa at this point. Nothing against Byron Young, but I just don't think he's done enough to separate himself. Number 4, this is going to be a shocker. Marcus Epps. That's right. So he's a veteran. He gives you a lot of versatility, and he can do a lot of different things for your defense. However, Trey Taylor is a stud. He is an absolute stud. And I think that he's going to get an opportunity very early to show what he can do for this defense. Trayvon Moehrig is balling out. He's going to be in a contract year. And Marcus Epps, I know he's got versatility. I know he's got experience. And I know he can do and be a really good leader for you. But it is going to be really, really hard to keep Trey Taylor off the field. I'm very high on Trey Taylor, and which goes without saying. But Marcus Epps could be the odd man out, unfortunately. Number 5, I think that's 5. Luke Masterson. And this one is probably a little bit of a shock because a lot of people have him starting. I am actually really holding out hope that Tommy Eichenberg can really take some snaps away here, and even Darian Butler or Amari Burney. I just feel like those 3 guys alone are all more athletic than Luke Masterson. Now, Luke Masterson has done some really good things for the Raiders, but at the same time, it's been, 2 or 3 years now. I think that Tommy Eichenberg is going to really push for some playing time early on here, the 5th-round pick. And I think that even if he doesn't, Amari Burney he's just too athletic to keep off the field. You need some coverage help. This defensive line is going to get after it. You need some absolute dudes out in the secondary. And I think that, unfortunately, Luke Masterson can be somewhat of a liability. But, that is it. I know with training camp coming and everything, we're going to make sure to bring you guys the latest. But those are our 5 players that could be surprise cuts for the Las Vegas Raiders. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe down below. And we'll see you on the next video.